So Terri, if you could just introduce yourself and let us know who you are and what you do.
Okay, I'm Terri Biloski. I run mostly. I do run coaching. I own a specialty retail running store. I do nutritional coaching, lots of learn to run groups, and myself run ultra marathons.
So what's your ultra running experience?
I've done the longest distance, or the longest event I've done right now is a 6-day.
6-day. How far is that?
I ran 500, just over 500 kilometers in 6 days. So that was actually just this year in Arizona, across the years. So I actually went there to volunteer and race. So I volunteered 8 hours a day.
Okay.
The rest of the time. And slept a little bit.
That's madness. Okay.
So that's my longest.
Okay.
Lots of milers. That's and I kind of went from, like, I find a lot of people with the ultra world, they sort of, you start at 50K and then you go to 50 miles and then, 100 miles, right? Or maybe 100K, maybe 100 miles. And then maybe 48 hours or 200 miles or something. I sort of went from 100 miles to 6 days. So I did a big jump there.
Okay. Okay. And what attracts you to this ridiculous sport?
Actually, the big backyard format was completely what attracted me. So I learned about Dog's Big Backyard Lazarus Lakes race a couple years ago. And when I heard about it, I thought it was just sort of the perfect race for me. 7K an hour, 7 kilometers every hour. And I thought I could theoretically do that forever.
Okay.
Providing the nutrition's right and you just get bits of sleep, or I didn't know how, but I'm like, in theory, I can do this forever. So yeah, I was really interested in that. And so I applied and I got in on the wait list to Big Backyard in 2018.
Okay.
But then I was kind of injured going in. I had a little hip thing going on and some pain in the bottom of my foot, and I just twisted an ankle. And nothing serious, but just a lot of little things.
Yep.
And it just slowed me down. So I wasn't able to maintain the speed I needed to continue beyond. I did 6 loops officially, 7 loops. I finished one more loop, but I was 30 seconds over the time, and that's when I was disqualified.
Okay.
But at that point, I realized that the people who are doing these events and doing well in these events are doing these multi-day things. So then I started looking into them, and that's kind of where that all.
Okay. Yeah. For the distance and how you thought you could go forever, I've only done one backyard ultra, and it was a snowshoe backyard ultra, and it was 5 kilometers in distance as opposed to 7, just because it's harder on snowshoes. And my experience was, after I did the first loop, I was asking myself, I can't imagine running any slower than that, because it is, for the distance of the time, when you're rest and when you're fresh and relaxed, it's easy. I couldn't believe, and like you experienced on your 7th lap, yes, it is possible to go slower.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, like I say, those first couple, it's like, man, it's almost a pedestrian pace. I was walking the uphills and just taking it easy for the rest. It's like, piece of cake, but it's just a cumulative effect over time.
Yeah. Prior to Big Backyard, actually, I had done Tally in the Valley, which is, again, the 7K loop in an hour. But that one only goes 24.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. My experience was the same, because it was like every lap I was 45 minutes, 15 minutes to rest, 45 minutes, 15 minutes to rest. And I'm like, oh, yes. And that just proved I could do it forever, right?
Yeah.
There's a big difference between 24 hours and 3 days.
What's the allure of ultra running in general? Why not just focus on doing a fast 5K or a 10K or even a marathon? Why ultras?
A lot of it, I think I kind of got into it almost accidentally, because I was doing the run coaching, sort of the personal training, and I love running. And so I'd work with lots of new runners, and people who are doing learn to runs, people who are training for their first 10K race or maybe their first marathon. And I was running with the people who were training for these races and not at all concerned about getting faster. And then I'd run with one person in the morning, and then one person at lunch, and then another person in the evening. And then I had some people who I worked with who were training for like multi-sport events. And I had said to them, if you can do, the swim, bike, run in a week, like all those distances, you just pull it together on race day and it'll work. Just trust the training, sort of thing. And I had noticed something that I kept saying was, if you can do it in a week, you can do it in a day. And so then all of a sudden I noticed my mileage is 100 miles a week. And I'm like, well, I got to try this.
Okay.
So never really put any focus on, built the distance really naturally. And then I have found that I've gotten faster accidentally, again, by, just because I'm running longer, I can hammer out not so much a marathon. I find the marathon still really hard, but anything shorter than a marathon, I can do pretty quick.
Right. Okay. So let's bring this over from you to other racers. So would you say a backyard ultra is a good introductory backyard ultra for most people who are aspiring to be an ultra runner?
I think so, because the format it's no pressure. I mean, there is pressure to finish within the time, but you just want to do the best you can do. So, and it's nice to have all your stuff, like everything you need, it's there every hour. It's there. And if you have, a bad loop and you need to change your shoes, you'll be there to get them within an hour. It's, your stuff is always there. You can always quit or keep going. It just, and even if you have like a really bad loop and it's the one you're eliminated, it's still, worst case scenario, it's a 20-minute walk to the finish line.
Right.
You're hours away, right?
Yeah. I haven't run ultras, but I was a pacer. So I've run half of the Leadville 100. I've run half of Hard Rock 100. And so I just know from being in those events, I was with my racer, John, and it was just me and John forever out in the bush for hours. And what I really liked when I did the little snowshoe backyard ultra here is kind of like your gear, all the people were together too. So my last couple of laps here were I was struggling. I was hurting. And just when I came back and I had all these guys going, come on, you can do one more. You can do one more. That I was able to do two more after I thought I was done. And had it just been a regular ultra and there was like an aid station, it would have been hands up for me and I would have bailed. So I think it's nice to have the gear and to have that support from the group as well every hour.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and I find the ultra people, everybody's so encouraging. Everybody wants you to keep going.
Yeah.
Because the longer everybody's going, the longer everybody's happy. It gets tough when you're out there by yourself, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just bring a friend and keep going for as long as you can, right? And
with a backyard ultra, you're rarely alone, right? Because you all leave together, and it must take a while for people to, spread out if they even do. Yeah.
On my last lap at Big Backyard, somebody came up behind me, and I was scared that I wasn't going to make time.
Yeah.
Getting slow, and he said that he's like, "Are we okay for time?" And I'm like, "I don't think so." And he's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "If you can pass me, go," because I have a feeling. And as I was coming in the last lap, there was, maybe 30 seconds to the finish line, and I was a minute away, and I could see somebody, and he's like, "You can do it." And I'm like, "No, I can't." I mean, mentally I can, I just can't go any faster.
So how would you recommend people prepare for a backyard ultra?
I think it's key to run several times a day, and like day and night. You don't necessarily need to spend, days running all day. It's just the periodic crazy training run. But, certainly get in the habit of, going for a morning hour run, take off at lunch and get an hour in, and then go for another hour after work. Some sleep deprivation, wake up in the middle of the night and go for a run is a good habit to get into.
And so I like what you're saying is it might be harder to carve out a 3-hour block, but we can all figure out like a 30 to an hour run, like 2 or 3 times a day for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, I do a lot of that. And then also, every once in a while you're going to throw in the long run, the 100K or 24 hours. I love doing, all night, like start the run at 8 o'clock at night and run through the night and then go to work the next day a little bit tired. It's good training, and coffee will save you at work.
Yeah, as long as your job isn't driving a bus or something, that's probably not.
Yeah.
Or you're a surgeon or something along those lines. So that's training. What about nutrition?
I found that I like taking gels and doing things that are simple, but it doesn't work for me and probably for most people for more than about 12 hours.
Okay.
You really do need to start get real food in, and long before that 12-hour mark. If you're just living off gels, come 8-9 hours in, they taste gross. Everything tastes gross, and you don't want to get real food in either.
Right.
So I try to maybe every hour or two eat something, just sort of whatever is going to go down, whatever sounds like, feels like it's going to work. The one thing I've also found too for myself, and this is probably true for other people, but I haven't put it into practice as much as I'd like to. I figure we've been conditioned to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner for longer than we've been conditioned to run ultras. Eat something muffin or bagel-ish at 7 a.m. and something, peanut butter and jelly sandwich-ish at lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on, like, for a marathon, I think all you need is carbs. But for a longer distance, you need more fat and protein?
Yeah. Yeah, I try to keep it like the peanut butter and jelly sandwich being, sort of your ideal ratios, right? Some sugar, some carbs, and some protein. What
else should a racer be prepared for that they might not be expecting in a backyard ultra?
Found with the nutrition part, I definitely try to just have sort of everything that I think I'm supposed to eat, but then also having the food that you'll never turn down, because it's more important to get food into you,
right?
And to you might have your protein shakes and gels or what works for you.
Okay.
But when all that stuff tastes gross, it's just important to get real food in, right? Or anything in, so that you have that to keep going. So I kind of pack all my favorite snack food and then try to mix it in with other things that are good. Almost trick myself into eating some, chocolate covered. That's another one. Chocolate covered nuts. Chocolate covered almonds or whatever, just because you're tricking yourself. It's chocolate, but there's a nut in there that's going to give me that, which will keep me going, right? So,
and I think it's true for everything is don't experiment with a new food or new shoes or new socks or or new clothes on race day. You want to
correct. Yeah, definitely. I do I'll pack my clothes in Ziploc bags. And it's an outfit, and so this is outfit 2 and 3 and 4, and this is outfit in case it rains, and everything's packed. So, socks, underwear, shorts, top, everything's in a Ziploc bag. I take a new outfit out, put the old outfit in, and off I go to run again. So that's really handy to have Ziploc bags piled of fresh, clean clothes.
So, this is a good question. I think over a long race, and let's assume the weather's even good, is there a need to change clothes at all, or?
I guess not. I don't know. It depends on how far you're going and like if it's rained, and if you get, I find, because you do get wet, right? You're going to get sweaty.
Right.
And then it cools down at night. And that's almost a given that you're going to sweat during the day and then it'll cool down at night.
Okay.
So you really should take your sweaty clothes off and put clean, dry clothes on. And then even if you put, like what I would do in that situation is take what I was wearing during the day off, put what I'm going to wear tomorrow during the day on, and then warmer clothes over top.
Okay.
Like what I'd be wearing through the night. So then when night's over, I can just take layers off. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Which brings me to another question, especially at night, if you happen to be running. Oh, so actually, this is a two-part question, I guess. I guess it might be person by person, but do you want to run the lap a little bit faster and rest? Or is it better to finish every lap at like 58 minutes and just, keep it going and go slower pace?
I found for 24 hours, what worked best for me was to go for about 50 minutes, like to try to not have much time to rest, just enough to, change shoes if I needed to or something quick. And that was my goal too, was to just be consistent. But into anything longer, I think you really do need some rest in the big backyard style. If you're going more than 24 hours, you need some sleep at some point, even if it's just 10.
So like on night 2, you're saying that people are getting 5-minute cat naps.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I was at Dog's Big Backyard there, we did stick around. Like I was out after 7 lifts, but I did stick around all the first night and into this part of the second day. So I was watching a lot of the people who were doing really well and what they were doing. And they would like sit down, put something over their head and like close their eyes. Like they would 2-minute, 5-minute, whatever it was, run, sleep, tell their crew person to wake them up. And it was kind of a run in, tell their crew person what they were planning on eating when they woke up, sleep for 5 to 7 minutes, eat the food as they walked into the start line, and then run again. It was very robotic, and especially like through the night.
Yeah.
Yeah. During the day, you just seem to naturally have more energy.
So that would be a big thing for people who are struggling through the night is, if it's 4 a.m, just know they've just got 1 or 2 hours left, and then they're going to be renewed to some degree.
Exactly.
So I think the last question I have for this is, I think you're coming to the Mad Trapper Backyard Ultra intending to win, right?
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah.
Very cool. So this is not a sexist. This is just reality. Is most races, men versus women, men always win. But it seems like at this race, this is the one sport where women really have the potential to outdo the men. At Biggs last year, right? Like, how far did she go?
265 miles. Yeah.
Yeah, and toe to toe with the guy. And I wonder how many more laps he had in him. And so pacing's a very big part of it. It seems.
I think I found most of the people at most of the ones. Now it's only been a couple that I've been to, but the people who did well were the ones who stayed slow and just did if you needed something extra, maybe did the occasional faster lap.
Right.
To make up time.
Yeah.
On, right? Yeah, just staying that consistent pace.
Because we've got some hills here. Our course is, I think, 50 feet hillier than Biggs. So we've got some hills. And so for our snowshoe race, we all walked the uphills. Like, so our quads didn't take a beating on the uphill.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we did at Tally in the Valley, is walk the uphills and then, you know, just run the rest of the course at a nice steady pace, right? It also helps digesting. I found, like, digesting food, I can't digest it if I'm running. So if you're walking the uphill, it's a good time to get food in.
Okay. So what do you do to try to stay away from injuries? That's got to be huge in ultra running.
Honestly, I'm lucky. I think a lot of it is because I've gotten into it naturally and slowly. But I mean, most of my injuries have been slip and fall injuries or rolled an ankle injuries, which means they're one-time injuries, not a repetitive strain thing that's going to keep coming back. It's once it's, and I think that is probably more luck than anything else. So.
And you probably have good running form. I know that's important.
Good running form and new shoes, lots of shoes. Just change your shoes all the time. I think I've already at least 3 times in this video. I change my shoes a lot. If I get mad, things aren't going well, change my shoes, put new, feel better.
Okay, so what questions did you have about the Mad Trapper Backyard Ultra?
So this is the first year you're doing it. Is that correct?
Yep.
Perfect. And what's the distance?
4.16667 miles.
Which is the same as Big Backyard?
Yep.
Okay. Where is that?
Like, just north of Ottawa.
Okay.
Yep, in the Gatineau Hills.
Perfect. And
so, yeah, so I've been hosting trail races for 14 years. I actually have the oldest running snowshoe series in Canada. So we've been doing this a long time. We just haven't been doing the ultra. Our property here is we're in the Gatineau Hills, and so it's very hard to find any flat. And so our previous longest trail race we have it's called Relentless, and the reason it's relentless is because unlike a road run, you can't rest. Like you're either going left or right or up or down. It's a true single track trail race. So your mind's always engaged, and there's never any time to really get any momentum and coast. But for my Mad Trapper Backyard, I'm going to be cutting a couple more trails. So instead of going up and over the hill, I'm going to try to take the contour line around. So I'm trying to make it as flat as possible. But I think with that, we're going to be about 50 feet hillier than Biggs in total elevation. So it's going to be pretty close. And this is why I want you to come, because I want to hear your feedback for how this event compares to Biggs. So I'm trying to make it as close to that as possible.
Perfect. And is there a road section?
Yeah, we're going to do road again, just because I want to model Biggs as much as possible. And I was thinking for your racers, again, because the trails are technical here, it's just a good mental break where you can sort of shut down your brain at night and just, run out and run back. The difference is, I don't know what Biggs elevation is for the road. We do have a couple of hills, but the big improvement here is we're running on gravel.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
Nice.
I didn't know why he was doing the night thing. I thought it was just part of his format. Then I found out about the snakes later. Yeah, we don't have snakes here. But like I say, I'm just going to model Biggs, and if he's running. And we're also doing our event on summer solstice. So it'll be the shortest night of the year. So we'll be on the trails until 10 a.m. and then 10 p.m. we'll be back on the trails at 6 a.m.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I say, it is a gravel road run, and so it's not gonna hurt your bones like asphalt will.
And so there's no cutoff, like it's gonna go until there's only one person left.
Yeah, I don't think. I don't like Biggs is like Hawaii Ironman now, right? It attracts everybody, so I don't think we'll get Courtney. Like I don't think we're gonna go whatever 3.5 days or whatever, but. If you want to go that long and someone wants to run with you, I will be there with you both till the end. So
awesome. And what about like camping? So you have an area where people can set up camp? Or what does everybody need to bring? That kind of stuff too.
Our like I have a 164 acre backyard. Like it's all on my property with the trail. Well, my property and the neighbors, because I just have hills here. My neighbor has a hayfield. So we're going to be running around the hayfield. So if you see the profile from kilometer 2 to kilometer 4, it's actually flat. Yeah, actually, in the middle there is like really flat. I'm not just saying that. The rest is flatter, but it's flat. But yeah, so we just have a piece of land carved out in the woods. So our backyard, like the true backyard with grass, isn't that big. So we won't be able to have a lot of tents right. Yeah, maybe I'll ask you for some advice when you come up to how to set it up. But yeah, there won't be a lot of room for tents at the starting corral.
Okay.
But we also have the front lawn, and we're limiting it to 50 racers. So yeah, there'll be room. There'll be room between the front lawn and the backyard for 50.
Perfect.
I guess it'll just be first come, first serve for who gets in the backyard right at this corral. And then the house is 100 feet long, and then there's more space in the front yard. So that'll be 100 feet away, 100 to 150.
A big backyard. They had there was room for tents and everything, but then right at the corral, you could only have a chair and a cooler, basically. Yeah.
So how far away are the tents at Biggs?
They're not super far away though, like 20 feet, depending on what. We're pretty close, right behind the porta potties kind of thing.
Nice.
But there were other people that were, further away, where they'd almost passed their tent before they finished. So you had to make that decision. Do you have time to run into the tent now?
Right.
And then go line, or do you go through the finish line and then turn around and go back to your tent? That's one thing I would always do if I can, is have my tent past the finish line. I have to go back to my tent.
Right.
I think that's more of a mental thing.
Yeah.
Than actually anything else, but just kind of that it's like you're taking 20 steps back and then you got to come back to the start line again.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Are you allowing people to bring crew, or?
I think so. Biggs does, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So definitely the crew needs to stay warm. And that's one thing they do there is they had the fire.
Okay. Well, we're a wedding venue too. So we have weddings here. So we actually have a bonfire pit in the backyard. So that's set. But we also have a 2,000 square foot indoor. That the start line is right at the entryway to the house with 2,000 square feet. So anybody can come inside and stay warm. The crew can be inside.
Oh, okay. Yep. Perfect. Yep. Good.
Okay. And so any inspirational words for people on the fence on whether they should sign up or not? Like who's it for? What should they do? What do you think?
You know what? The backyard style ultras, they're amazing. They're so much fun. Great support, like from having all the other runners. I guess anybody who's sitting on the fence, just do it, because you can run 7 kilometers, right? Yeah. If you can run 7 kilometers, you'll be surprised at what you can do in this environment. And I'm sure new runners who would come out to an event like this who didn't think they could ever do a marathon would, accidentally run a marathon.
Yeah.
And be so stoked with themselves for having done it. Or marathoners accidentally doing a 50K or a 50 miler. I think you do a lot more than you think you can in that kind of environment. So I don't know, just do it.